Align your screen with my camera so that we are both seeing the same thing. Now hold your arm up in front of your face until the factory we're in aligns with what you see on the screen. As the camera moves, move your screen with it. Okay, stand up. Come with me and let's take a look at the show. In these works, you see traces of Gordon Matta Clark or Tony Smith or Ad Reinhardt. But these artists in the exhibition really acknowledge the whole range of differences in the way we relate to each other in a contemporary world. Up ahead, you can see one of the evolving works. Now, this will be an intermittent performance throughout the run of the show. The artist will return time and again to reconfigure the sculpture in response to intuition, other work in the show, the light at the specific time of day, or maybe what she ate for breakfast that day. Now, let's move on to another of what I call the media-based work. Now, it's very sculptural and even feels like an installation, but it clearly gets to the heart of what might be called the archival impulse. I see it as a library that speaks to our attempts to overcome our mental weakness with technology. These weaknesses compel us to action. For example, to try to capture every image we see into some vast archive of memories. Every holiday, every special event, every casual image that captures how we might remember a person or moment. You have to imagine that these empty squares of light are every photo you've ever taken, or every picture that resides in your mind throughout your life. Can you see them? Okay, enough of that. Let's look over here. Just look at it. A plain white box. It's like a throwback piece, or maybe a middle finger to Tony Smith. But imperfect, I'm thinking. Now, I see this more and more lately. Something that looks like trash pulled from an alley, painted before being placed in an alternative gallery to be shown as fine art. Oh, he's starting over here. I think this will be a favorite for the show. Let's just take a minute and listen. Reminds me of sci-fi and William Gibson and networks, all that, as well as the promise of a future that we cannot yet know. When I directly face the work and stare into its perfectly cold light, I tend to want to read its geometries as some type of text or coded language. Or hell, maybe it's just some pretty lights mounted on a wall. Over here, you have one of those magician type of artists who can take almost any material and make it cast a spell on you. The materials are in transition or suspended animation. See the way the mirror sends the floor into an oblique direction? The formal and the conceptual content of this artist's work invites consideration of numerous contrasting themes. This next piece is the one you've been hearing all along, the most visceral and violent work in the show. Let's just watch for a moment. The body becomes a machine in this piece. The joints of each bone are emphasized, and the repetitive motions as the rifle is assembled and disassembled. As the fan blows, it creates dynamic movement and expressive forms within the piece of fabric. It almost looks like the way that waves move through the ocean, lapping onto the shore, or in this case, rolling off the edge of the fabric. I like to get really close and let it take up my entire field of vision. Go ahead, try it. And you see the artist preparing and priming each canvas, but each stroke seems planned and direct, adhering to an overall structure. It might help to think about this work less as an object of painting and more as the repetitious act of applying paint to a surface. The straight lines within the confines of a rectilinear canvas, as well as the dissolving of a once representational art form into pure formalism. Turn around over here. We're almost done. Now let's watch this for a minute. Take this object at face value. What do we know by simply looking? Our shared knowledge tells us it is a machine for the purpose of projecting light through an acetate film in order to create the effect of a moving image. But it's absence of an illusion, right? Because we stop to think about it. A series of tiny photographs moving quickly past a light bulb gives us the perception of movement. But it isn't real, right? It's a fantasy that we've come to accept. Here it is, the final piece. This shares the same sense of absence like the other works, but it's also a platform we occupy, maybe waiting for the content you bring to the work, and how our presence affects the work we encounter. Lower your arms. Take another look. I think it's better if I let you sit with this one for a bit. There's a list of works around here somewhere. You should take one with you when you leave.